Hello, friends. Today there has been a lot of results have been declared for the ICSE class 10th and 12th that happened yesterday. And today, what I saw was that a lot of parents in the past 24 hours had been putting up posts declaring what kind of marks their kids have got. So somebody would say 98%, somebody said 99%, and so on and so forth. And just it has been using an almost unbelievable that a kid in class 10th or 12th can almost score perfect marks in history and geography and even English, which is sort of not what I am used to, and I'm sure most of you are not used to that as well. But that's happening. But what worries to me is there was a kid who very bright chap, and he wrote his board exam this year. And this child used to keep, so I know him, so he keeps asking me questions about space and science and several other things. And uh, fairly well, very excited kid, and always had some great questions. He wants to go to Mars and Moon and whatnot. And I remember that last evening he put up a post saying that, I've got very good marks in science and math. And then he also put up that the total marks I got, the average I got is about 95%. And then somebody wrote in his comment that, oh, you got 95%, I got 98%, right? And then there were a lot of thumbs up to that comment and far lesser thumbs up to his own post. And then today morning, I noticed something else. I noticed he deleted his post. So I called him and I asked him that. I chatted him with him. It's not even called him. And he said, "Oh, my father is very angry because the other kids in school got far more marks, and their average was 97%, and there was a topper who was 98%, and I'm just at 95%." And it's just almost cruel to believe that a kid is so sad to get to lose. He's getting 19 marks out of every 20 available marks, and still his own family treats him as if he's done a crime. He has to delete his post. He's agonized, and this child is traumatized because he believes he's no good anymore, and he doesn't even trust what he's good at, which is science and math. And this kid wants to be a spacewalker. I don't think a spacewalker needs to score great marks in history. It's good to know history, but if you're not good in history, even then you can be a spacewalker. You can be an astronaut even then. So this kid will. My problem is that this kid in further studies would probably not even be good in math and science because he loses confidence. That is what the education system does to us, and that is my biggest worry. And I'm seeing so many parents doing this. So many parents are putting up 98%, 99%, and so on. It does not make any sense to share the private marks of your child publicly on social media. First of all, it should be a private affair. It's something between you and your family. Even if you choose to share, remember that what you're doing is by sharing the children, the marks of your child, you are saying that everything which a child is measured in a bunch of marks, right? So all what a child has done in 14 years of education or so would be judged by a 2-hour exam, which will be assessed by somebody else in 15 minutes, and marks would be sent to you via a board exam. Is that what you're going to value your kid for? And the other thing which you miss by doing this is teaching him or her a lesson in humility. That same child has got friends and classmates and schoolmates who have not done well, as per your 95 or 97% mark parameter. And you are missing a chance to teach your child to be compassionate, to value that even when you are successful, in your own terms, there are other people who may have different terms of success and who may not have done well according to their terms of success, and you need to be compassionate about them. You miss that chance. So don't do this. And as parents, you are parents. You have a career and you know that it does not matter what you score in class 10th and 12th. And I'm not saying it matters a little. I'm saying it does not matter at all. Think of the person who was the board topper in your school, the guy who scored the maximum in class 10th or class 12th. Where is he? Is he at the pinnacle of career? Is he the most successful person in life? Is he, and more importantly, is he or she the happiest person in life? Think of, I can't even, I don't even know where the person who was my school topper is right now. And I can't say anything about whether the person is happy or not. I can't say the same about my college topper. I don't even know where he is. I can't say about the same with my IIM Ahmedabad topper. I don't know where the person is. And is he the most successful person? Definitely not. I can name a few more who I would rate, even from a career perspective alone, to be more successful. And that's what life is. Life is not judged by marks given by others based on a 3-hour paper. Life is a long marathon. Stop judging your kids and other kids by these short sprints of how well you did in 5 seconds or 10 seconds of a race when you know it is a marathon. You are misleading them. All what you're doing is you are boosting your own ego and you're sending your child in a wrong trajectory, a wrong assessment. Life is successful for those who are compassionate and kind and who are great runners in a marathon and not a sprint. You know this, tell them the truth. And that goes for school principals who are posting photographs of their kids as if it's like it looks like a Walmart. This is the kid, this is the price. This is the kid, this is the price. And price here being the marks. Stop using children for propagating a prospectus. That's not a good way to do it, right? That's not what you want the kids to learn, to judge humans on scores. Humans are far complicated. We're not machines. Don't make them machines. Then don't worry if they treat you like machines as well, because that's what you're doing to them. That's what they learn. I want to show you something, and I want to show you this. Here you go. This is a car in the year 1910, a 110-year-old car. Okay. This is a car in the year 2020. This is a Tesla S-Class electric car. Fabulous drive, very light, very safe. In 100 years, cars went from there to here. This is an airplane which is in 1915. People have to push it on the runway to make it, take off, and barely lasts for a few minutes, and then it falls and it may even kill someone. This is an airplane in the year 2020. This is an A380, the state-of-the-art flight, and everything is computer controlled. Look at the number of, the wheels which it has. That's the beauty of this plane. The heaviest, the best plane we have created for passengers. One of the safest planes which we have in the market. And if you're not impressed by this fellow is a space shuttle. So this plane does not even, it doesn't even glide in the air. It can even, maneuver in space. It can do space and air. This is a space shuttle. We use it today. We use it for the past 20 years. This is a space shuttle. 100 years later, this is what we have built. And now go further. This is a computer in the year 1900. 100 years ago, this is what computers looked like. It's actually a cloth loom, which has been customized as a computer. It's called the Babbage engine, right? This is what computers look like. This is what computers are looking today. This is a quantum computer. That little one chip out there is a quantum chip. And that using qubits is more powerful than perhaps a billion times than the previous engine was. That's how it is. This little thing, if technology evolves well, could be more powerful than all of the computers we currently have put together. We are at that cusp. We need these scientists, people who work on this. 100 years, this is what's happened. And now see this. This is a classroom in the year 1920. This is a British classroom in the year 1920. This is what classrooms looked like in the year 1920. This is what classrooms look like in 2020, and you can see the coronavirus masks. In 100 years, the classrooms have not moved an inch. And if you don't trust me, I'm going to put them side by side in the same sepia tone. Here you go. Let me just expand this. These classrooms have 100 years between them. But if you look at them, you cannot tell which one is new and which one is old. And that, ladies and gentlemen, this is the problem. The problem which we face today is the fact that everything around us has changed. Airplanes have changed from Wright brothers to A380s, and cars have become from Ford to Tesla. We have gone into space, we have walked on moon, we've got things on Mars, we've got a device which is called Voyager, which is at the edge of our own solar system. And yet, with everything changed, what did not change is how we educate, assess, and examine our students, our children. And it's almost horrifying that we are trying to build our workforce, our intellectual force of tomorrow with a technology which is 100 years or in fact even old. Gone are those days when the entire test of the knowledge of a child or a student was based on how much this person can remember. That used to be such an old concept, right? I mean, that those are the days, the olden days. And we're still living in that system where our entire assessment of a child's intellectual ability is based on how well this person can remember what is being told to them and what is being written in the books. So, in that context, we are living. We're living in a time where the entire good or bad marks of a student are based on whether you can remember certain dates, whether you can remember certain formula, whether you can reproduce whatever the teacher has said. Can you just reproduce them on a paper in a 2 hour time limit? And if you do that, and if some other teacher sees it and says, oh yeah, this makes sense, they are carbon copies of each other, then you are a success. We need to dismantle this system. And this entire board result is a manifestation of that system, which needs to be dismantled from the core. In my class 6 or 7, and I'm sure you also read about it, a plus b is equal to a square plus b square plus a plus b whole square is equal to a square plus b square plus 2ab. Nobody can explain to you what is 2ab. Nobody ever explained the significance of what is this plus 2ab. But if you write 2ab ka minus 2ab, then you'll get a 0, and people will laugh at you. Why would people laugh at you? The ones who are laughing at you and the ones who are saying that you are wrong cannot even explain what is the meaning of this plus 2ab. And it takes a whole career in science to actually figure out why is there 2ab and what is the significance of it. In class 11, I learned this concept about complex numbers, and my teacher cannot explain to me why do you need complex numbers? What is the use of it? Why do you create a system which is imaginary? Why do you have imaginary numbers at all? Did you ever think of it? Did you ever think, why do we have imaginary numbers? And why are imagining numbers? What kind of an Alice in Wonderland mathematics is this? And nobody explained, because nobody cared to find out. And it's only when you go into quantum physics and only when you realize that these imaginary numbers have significant impact on the way our future is going to shape, you realize. It took me 10 years after school to actually realize that imaginary numbers have a significance. And let alone if that sounds complex to you, even differentiation and integration, which teacher probably or which board actually explains the use of differentiation and integration? It's only when you go to, you set a mission to Mars, you realize that differentiation and integration are so important. But why can't this be told to children? And children are just assessed on how well they can basically come up, remember a formula and just reproduce that formula. That's all what it is. And that's why even mathematics is based on rote learning. How many schools are there in India where the entire history and geography class is nothing but one child standing reading 2 para, the next child standing reading another 2 para, another 2 para, another 2 para, and the syllabus is done? How many? Many. I'm not going to point out any single one of them because there are many. In physics, the last chapter used to be relativity. And I remember in my class 11th or 12th, the last chapter was relativity and nobody bothered to teach it or read it or learn it because usse koi question nahi fasega. And it took me at least 12 to probably more than that to actually realize that relativity is the most fascinating thing. That's how you do time travel, if you ever do. That's how you do, you can create an entire new system of going to distant planets. If you ever go to another galaxy or another star, you will use the system and the principles which are in that chapter. And what do we tell our children? Don't read it. No question comes from that. Because the examiner cannot set a question, the checker cannot check that question, and the teacher cannot teach that question. So it is in syllabus, but it is out of syllabus. And that is the problem. because we do not make it interesting. And that's exactly the reason everything which is interesting is too complicated. So we just simplify everything and we tell children not to go deep. The ones who are getting 95% or 90% or 85% are not bad students. They're students who thought that I like something and I'm going to invest time in it because I want to know more about it. And in that process, they became good at something, very good at something. And they probably would have ignored the other things around it. So instead of trying to become a jack of all, they became an expert in one thing and they focused on these things. The world calls these people as focused people, as people who are experts in an area, as domain area experts. The education system calls them failures. The real life and the board marks are very different, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. And as we conclude today's address, I wanted to talk to you about this man, Srinivas Ramanujan. Ramanujan is the person who lived for 33 years and was perhaps the most brilliant mathematician we've ever come across. This man, in 33 years of lifetime, or somewhere around that, 33, 35, solved about 4,000 complex problems. In fact, when his secret diary was found in 1970s, that diary, about 40 years after he had passed away, was still considered to be a gem in mathematics because it solved so many new things. It was still relevant. It is still relevant. His theories are even now relevant. But this person, Srinivas Ramanujan, was judged as a failure by the education system. He did not even go to school, but he was enrolled in a school. But his parents had to put a sort of a chowkidar to ensure that he goes to school. A constable was deputed so that he tracks him to school and brings him back because this guy doesn't want to go to school because school was boring. Ramanujan, when he was in his board exam, literally failed in everything except mathematics. He failed in everything. And so he was so bad that, let alone science, the system would not even let him read arts, the humanities. So he did not even get enrolled in that. So he became self-educated in mathematics, and he wrote to one of the great professors in UK, Professor Hardy, who was the only person who identified his talent. But if he remained in our education system, in our board examination system, he would have repeated class 12 5 times and then got out of the education system without a 12th certificate. That's what we would have done to Ramanujan. It took a British expert to actually realize what a wonderful talent he is. And this man is the best mathematician in the history of humankind. And I'm not claiming because he's an Indian or anything. I'm just telling you fact. In 30-something years of his lifetime, he solved more problems than anybody else did in their lifetimes. This is the most wonderful mathematician we would have lost in our education system. So, what I'm trying to tell you, friends, is that this is Professor Hardy. You need a Hardy, right? What I'm trying to tell you is that if you're an educator, if you're a parent, if you're a school, if you're a board administrator, remember there are so many Ramanujans amongst our kids, and you need to be a Hardy. We need a Professor Hardy who can identify that in that, all the failures that Ramanujan had, they were only not because he was not good in English or he was not good in science. He was brilliant, but his focus was mathematics, and he was just brilliant in it. And he was the best we know. The humankind, the best mathematician we know, would have been lost if there was no Professor Hardy. So today I give you this task. If you are a parent or an educator, become Professor Hardy. Become like Professor Hardy, so that the Ramanujans are not lost. The board examination means nothing in your life. If you're a student, I'm telling you with full confidence, I'm not a school topper. I was actually, the 10th was decent, 12th was even worse. I was not a college topper. And neither was someone like an Einstein. Einstein was not a college topper. Neither was an Alexander Fleming who gave us penicillin. In fact, he almost gave up research itself, Alexander Fleming, because nothing was coming out. And then some accident happened and he suddenly got light of knowledge. There is actually no scientist, no major scientist from Newton to Einstein who was a school topper. You know why? Because those brilliant minds think in such innovative ways that the age-old education system cannot even identify and assess them. So maybe it's not because it's nothing to do with your it's nothing to do with your talent. I'm sure it's not. Maybe it's got to do with the fact that you are the genius and you have such an innovative mind that maybe The whole education system itself cannot encapsulate and assess you in the proper way. So don't be let down. You are in, if you are a 95%, if you are a 90%, you are in great company. The greatest achievements in this world have been done by those students who are system assessed to be mediocre. Even Dr. Kalam was not a topper in his college. He was not. He struggled with language and he suffered badly. There's something which has been told often that his language gap was there and he suffered badly because of language. Not that his science was bad, but his language was not too good because he belonged to a different class of society which was not adept in English. So a lot of times it's the circumstances and certain subjects which may pull you down. But remember in life, excellence matters in one or two things. You don't need to be good at a jack of everything. You need to be an ace in something. So be that. Don't let this dishearten you. And believe me that in 4 or 5 years, nobody's going to ask you how many marks you got. It's just a fleeting thing. Just like any other thing, it was passing. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try hard. Keep your, put your best foot forward, and I'm sure great things will happen to you. So take care. Bye.